23 wounds. Rome, March 15th, 44 BC. Wait, wrong guy. Let me back up. Babylon, June 323 BC. Alexander the Great, the man who'd conquered everything from Greece to India and never lost a single battle, lies dying at 32. His final words? To the strongest, cryptic, dramatic, very on brand. But here's what nobody talks about. This unstoppable military genius was a Cancer sun with a Scorpio moon who literally wept over his dead horse, had the most intense mommy issues in ancient history, and once eliminated his best friend in a drunken rage, then locked himself in his room sobbing for 3 days straight. His birth chart didn't just predict his conquests, it predicted every single emotional breakdown, every paranoid spiral, every time he cried in public, and exactly how his own feelings would become both his superpower and his fatal flaw. And that Scorpio moon? Wait till you see what that explains about the whole Persian Empire thing. Real quick before we get into this. If you're obsessed with understanding historical figures through their charts, subscribe. Hit like if you're ready for this emotional roller coaster. And here's what I need to know. Would you rather have Alexander's Cancer Scorpio intensity, knowing it comes with his level of emotional chaos, or would you pass on that kind of power? Drop your honest take in the comments, because I'm genuinely curious where you all stand on trading stability for that kind of empire-building energy. Alexander III of Macedon, born July 20th, 356 BC in Pella, Macedonia. Cancer sun. We don't have his exact birth time, so no confirmed moon or rising, but based on everything we know about his personality, most astrologers clock him as Scorpio moon with Aries rising. And honestly, that combination explains literally everything. Let me break this down. Cancer sun means his core identity was built on emotional intensity, fierce protectiveness, and an obsessive need to prove himself worthy of love. That's the engine. The Scorpio moon, that's where it gets dark. Obsessive, vengeful, psychologically complex, capable of holding grudges for years and also forming bonds so intense they bordered on possession. And that Aries rising gave him the warrior exterior everyone remembers, the impulsive courage, the charge, first think, later energy. But underneath that aggressive facade, pure water sign emotional chaos, this is a man fueled entirely by feelings, and we're about to see exactly how that played out. So, born in Pella, the capital of Macedon, in July 356 BC, his father was Philip II, and this brilliant military reformer who had 7 or 8 wives. His mother was Olympias, princess of Epirus. And let me tell you about this woman, because she's essential to understanding Alexander's chart. Olympias was intensely devoted to Alexander, Cancer sun's dream, right? Except she was also manipulative, involved in mystery cults, possibly venomous literally and definitely venomous figuratively. She told Alexander from birth that he was descended from heroes and gods: Achilles, Heracles, Zeus himself. Philip's other wives, Olympias probably had them eliminated. Philip's attention, always elsewhere, always on military campaigns or with other women. For a Cancer sun, this is the perfect storm, the sign that craves emotional security and family validation, raised by a mother who's his only source of unconditional love but also wildly unstable, with a father who's never there but whose approval he desperately needs. That Cancer sun, in what's likely the 4th house of family and legacy. Obsessed. Every single thing Alexander did for the rest of his life was about proving himself to a dad who barely noticed him, and honoring a mom who made him believe he was literally divine. At 13, Aristotle shows up to tutor him. Alexander absorbs everything: philosophy, science, medicine, geography. Cancer energy loves to learn, to collect knowledge like emotional security blankets. And Homer's Iliad becomes his Bible. Achilles becomes his hero, his template, the person he models his entire identity around. He sleeps with a copy under his pillow. That's Cancer attachment behavior. Then at 16, something happens that reveals the whole chart. A horse dealer brings this massive black stallion named Bucephalus to Philip's court. Price tag, 13 talents, which is absolutely wild, like 3 times the normal price. But nobody can ride him. The horse is too wild, too aggressive, keeps rearing up. Philip's about to send him away, and Alexander, 16 years old, pipes up from the audience. What an excellent horse they're losing, because nobody has the skill to handle him. Philip's like, You think you can do better than trained cavalry officers, and Alexander bets him he can tame the horse or he'll pay for it himself. Everyone's laughing. But here's what Alexander noticed that nobody else did. The horse was afraid of his own shadow. So Alexander turns Bucephalus toward the sun, so the shadow's behind him, speaks to him calmly, mounts him, and rides him in a circle. The crowd goes wild. Philip allegedly tells him, "My son, seek a kingdom equal to yourself because Macedon is too small for you." Whether that's true or propaganda, here's what matters. Alexander and Bucephalus become inseparable for the next 20 years. Only Alexander can ride him. And when Bucephalus dies in 326 BC in India, Alexander weeps openly, gives him a royal funeral, and founds an entire city in his honor. A city for a horse. That is Cancer Sun energy. That is the sign that forms attachments so deep they become part of their identity. 336 BC. Alexander's 20. Philip gets eliminated at his daughter's wedding, stabbed by one of his own bodyguards. Some people think Olympias arranged it. Some think Alexander knew. Regardless, Alexander seizes power immediately. That Aries, rising courage, that Scorpio Moon ruthlessness. But the Cancer loyalty to his mother means she becomes his closest confidant, his emotional anchor. He's king of Macedon at 20, and within a year, he's planning to do what Philip dreamed of: invade Persia. 334 BC. He crosses into Asia Minor with 30,000 infantry and 5,000 cavalry. At the Battle of Granicus River, his first major engagement with Persian forces, Alexander leads a direct cavalry charge across a swollen river. The Persians are waiting on higher ground with archers ready. Most commanders would have waited, found a better position. Alexander charges straight in on Bucephalus, and he almost gets ended right there. Two Persian commanders attack him at once. One raises his sword to bring it down on Alexander's head. Cleitus the Black, one of his commanders, severs the guy's arm mid-swing, saves Alexander's life. Remember this. We'll come back to Cleitus. Here's what makes Alexander's military genius so Cancer. He doesn't just conquer, he absorbs. He adopts Persian customs. He honors local gods. He founds cities and names them Alexandria, creating family everywhere he goes. Cancer energy doesn't destroy and move on. It nurtures. It protects. It wants to belong to every place it touches. When he reaches Troy, he visits the tomb of Achilles, his hero, and weeps publicly. His men are standing there watching their king cry over a grave. That's not normal conqueror behavior. That's water sign emotional overflow. 333 BC. Battle of Issus. Alexander faces Darius III of Persia with a vastly smaller army. Darius has chariots, elephants, probably 100,000 men. Alexander has maybe 40,000, and he charges directly at Darius. Cancer Sun, Aries rising. Zero hesitation. Darius turns and flees. Alexander wins. Then he marches down the Phoenician coast, and Tyre, this island fortress, refuses to surrender. So Alexander besieges it for 7 months. Most commanders would have moved on, but Cancer doesn't let go. Cancer is a cardinal sign, which means it initiates things. But it's also deeply stubborn, about seeing things through when emotions are involved. When Tyre finally falls, Alexander has 2,000 men eliminated by various methods. That's Scorpio Moon, revenge energy. You don't humiliate a Scorpio Moon and walk away. Late 332 BC, he reaches Egypt. The Egyptians welcome him as a liberator from Persian rule and accept him as pharaoh. He makes sacrifices to Egyptian gods. He founds Alexandria in Egypt, which becomes one of the greatest cities in the ancient world. And he goes to the oracle of Ammon in the Libyan desert, where the priests declare him the son of Zeus. For a Cancer son, who's been told since birth that he's descended from gods, this is validation on a cosmic level. His mother was right. He is divine. And that belief, that emotional certainty, becomes unshakable. 331 BC, Gaugamela, the decisive battle. Darius has assembled everything, his entire army, every resource. Alexander charges straight at him again. Darius flees again. Alexander is proclaimed king of Asia. He's 25 years old and he's just broken the Persian Empire. Babylon opens its gates. Persepolis surrenders. He finds Darius dying in 330 BC, ended by his own men, and allegedly covers his body with his cloak and gives him a royal burial. Cancer empathy, even for enemies. But here's where the Scorpio Moon starts to show its shadow side. Remember Philotas, the commander of the companion cavalry? In 330 BC, he's accused of treason. Whether he's actually guilty is debated by historians to this day. But Alexander has him tried and then eliminated. And after Philotas is gone, Alexander promotes 2 commanders to replace him. One of them is Cleitus the Black, the man who saved his life 6 years earlier at Granicus. And the other is Hephaestion, Alexander's closest friend, possibly his lover, definitely his emotional anchor. 328 BC. Maracanda, which is modern-day Samarkand. Alexander's deep in Central Asia, his army's exhausted, and he throws a banquet. Everyone's drinking, a lot, and Alexander announces he's reorganizing commands. Specifically, Cleitus is being sent north with 16,000 Greek mercenaries to fight steppe nomads. It's basically a demotion, a way to get him out of the inner circle. Cleitus knows it, he's furious, and he's also drunk, so he starts talking. He reminds Alexander that all his victories are because of his father Philip's military reforms. He brings up how many times Alexander's been saved in battle, including the time Cleitus himself saved him at Granicus. He says Alexander's adopting Persian customs is an insult to Macedonian traditions. And then he says Alexander isn't even the legitimate king. Alexander loses it. He calls for his guards. They won't intervene. He throws an apple at Cleitus. Someone hustles Cleitus out of the room, but Cleitus comes back, still yelling. And Alexander grabs a spear from an attendant and throws it across the room. It goes through Cleitus's chest. Cleitus collapses, dead instantly. The room goes silent. And when Alexander sobers up and realizes what he's done, he pulls the spear out of Cleitus's body and tries to use it on himself. His guards wrestle it away. He locks himself in his room for 3 days. Won't eat, won't drink, just weeping. Some sources say he was literally speechless from grief. That's Cancer Sun having a complete emotional breakdown after the Scorpio Moon's rage got out of control. The guilt, the remorse, the inability to process what he's done. It's textbook water sign emotional overwhelm. He eventually comes out, holds ceremonies in Cleitus's memory, but the damage is done. His officers are terrified. The message is clear. Nobody is safe if they challenge him. By 326 BC, Alexander reaches India. He defeats King Porus at the Battle of Hydaspes, which is actually in modern-day Pakistan. It's his last major battle. And Bucephalus, his horse, his companion for 20 years, dies. Either from battle wounds or old age, he was about 30 years old at that point. Alexander is devastated. He weeps openly again, gives Bucephalus a funeral fit for a king, and founds a city on the banks of the Hydaspes River, Bucephala, named after his horse. That cancer attachment, that inability to let go of emotional bonds, that need to immortalize the things he loves, it's all right there. His army reaches the Bees River and they've had enough. They're exhausted, homesick, done. They mutiny. They refuse to go further. For Alexander, this is devastating. Cancer Sun conjunct what's probably Jupiter in his chart means he genuinely cannot stop expanding, protecting, conquering. Stopping feels like failure, but he has no choice. He turns back. So let's talk about what his chart actually explains. Cancer Sun is the core. This is a sign that doesn't do anything for glory alone. Cancer fights to protect, to prove worth, to create family, to build legacy. Every city Alexander founded, that's Cancer nesting behavior. Every time he adopted local customs, Cancer absorbing and nurturing different cultures. Every time he wept publicly, Cancer refusing to hide emotions. The sign is ruled by the moon, which means emotions aren't just felt. They're the entire operating system. Alexander didn't conquer despite being emotional. He conquered because he was emotional. His passion, his need to be seen as worthy, his attachment to his men, his mother, his ideals, that's the fuel. That Scorpio Moon is the intensity beneath. Scorpio in the moon placement is considered in its fall, which means emotional expression is difficult, overwhelming, potentially destructive. These people feel everything at extremes. When they love, it's obsessive. When they're betrayed, they never forget. Alexander's paranoia as he got older? Scorpio Moon. The way he had people eliminated for treason, real or perceived. Scorpio Moon. The depth of his grief over Hephaestion's death in 324 BC, where he allegedly ordered the temple of the healing god destroyed in revenge. Textbook Scorpio Moon Rage at the Universe. This placement gives psychological insight. the ability to read people, to understand power dynamics. But it also makes trust nearly impossible and turns emotional wounds into open wars. And that Aries rising? That's the mask, the warrior everyone saw, the impulsive, brave charge into battle first king. Aries rising gives physical courage, competitiveness, a need to be first. It's why people remember Alexander as this fearless military genius. But it's a mask over a deeply emotional, deeply vulnerable Cancer core. The combination is explosive. You've got cardinal water and fixed water and cardinal fire all fighting for control. Cancer wants to nurture and protect. Scorpio wants to control and transform. Aries wants to charge ahead and conquer. That's not a peaceful chart. That's someone who's going to burn bright and fast and probably take themselves out in the process. June 323 BC, Babylon. Alexander's 32. He's planning his next campaigns. Arabia's on the list. He attends a banquet with his admiral Nearchus and his friend Medius. They drink heavily. Alexander develops a fever. Over the next 10 days, it gets worse. He can't speak. His soldiers file past him and he waves at them silently. Some ancient sources say he was poisoned. Others say malaria, typhoid, maybe bacterial infection from contaminated water. We'll never know for sure. But here's what we do know. When they asked him who should succeed him, he said, "To the strongest," which is either profound or the worst succession planning in history. Probably both. He's gone at 32. And immediately, his empire falls apart. Because Cancer energy is about him protecting everyone. Without him, there's no center. His generals, the Diadochi, carve up his territory and spend the next 40 years fighting each other. His wife Roxana gives birth to his son, Alexander IV, a few months later. Both of them are eventually eliminated. His mother Olympias tries to hold power and is eliminated too. Everything he built collapses, but his chart predicted this. Water signs burn out. Emotional intensity at that level is not sustainable. Cancer Sun conjunct Jupiter means expansion until it's physically impossible. Scorpio Moon means transformation through destruction, including self-destruction. He couldn't stop conquering because stopping meant confronting his trauma, his need for validation, his father's absence, his mother's manipulation, his friend's death, his own guilt over Cleitus. So he kept moving, kept fighting, kept expanding until his body gave out. What's wild is that it worked. He created the largest empire in the ancient world at that point, from Greece to Egypt to India. He spread Greek culture across 3 continents, starting the Hellenistic period that would shape civilization for centuries. He's remembered 2,300 years later. Everyone knows his name. That's Cancer legacy building. That's Scorpio transformation. That's Aries pioneering. But at what cost? He eliminated his best friend in a drunken rage. He never knew his son. He died at 32, exhausted and probably sick from years of pushing his body beyond its limits. His emotional intensity won him an empire and cost him everything else. Classic water sign tragedy. The feelings that make you powerful are the same ones that destroy you if you don't learn to regulate them. And here's the thing about Alexander's chart that gets me. He was never going to have a long, peaceful life. That combination of Cancer, Scorpio, and Aries, it's built for intensity, not longevity. It's built for making an impact, not for making it to 50. His chart was always going to push him to extremes. The question was never if he'd burn out. It was how bright he'd burn first, and the answer is bright enough that we're still talking about him 23 centuries later. Bright enough that his name became synonymous with greatness. Bright enough that he changed the entire ancient world. All because a Cancer boy loved his horse, loved his mother, loved his men, and needed so desperately to prove he was worthy of love that he conquered everything he could reach and still felt like it wasn't enough. That's the real Alexander the Great. Not just the military genius, not just the undefeated warrior. The emotionally intense, deeply vulnerable Cancer Sun with a Scorpio Moon who cried at his hero's tomb, founded cities for his dead horse, and never learned that you can't fill an emotional void with an empire. His chart explains everything. The victories and the breakdowns, the loyalty and the paranoia, the brilliance and the tragedy. And honestly, I don't know if I'd want that energy in my life or not. The power's undeniable, but the cost is everything.